going on, everyone? John Matrix here. So today we are going to be jumping back into some more of the SCP Foundation. We've got a video here that was requested by one of my YouTube members. SCP-682, The Inevitable End of All But Me, by Mr. Illustrated. So I guess this is supposed to be a video that is about 682 and everything else, essentially, in the world or universe being dead, and 682 just being left alone, I think. So, yeah, that's what we're going to take a look at here. So let's jump into it. As always, links will be down below in the description to the original video and to Mr. Illustrated's channel. So if you do me a favor, click on those links, go give this video of his a like, check out his channel. If he's got content you like, give the man a sub. Definitely deserves it. He makes a lot of great content. Yeah, let's go over there, give him some support. But for now, check it out. Whoops, I need to actually, there we go. Now let's go.
Good day everyone, and welcome back to SCP Illustrated for the first video of 2020, and it's a 682
2020
video. But it's not a versus video this time. This is a custom tale written by Dr. Sumerian and myself, though mostly Sumerian. I just pitched the idea. So in this video we see 682 as the universe slowly begins to die all around him. It's not dying from an XK event, it's just time. After trillions and trillions of years.
So this is the universe has finally hit entropy and is actual, like, heading towards heat deaths where there's literally nothing, and 682 is still there.
Even the universe will begin to grow old, and 682 has a front seat for all of it.
Damn.
There's no content warning needed for this one, except you might feel some sympathy for 682 by the end. But apart from that, let's begin.
I mean, you think about that too, like, at one point is it like, okay, first off, like, the idea of what kind of freedom of movement would you have in a situation where, okay, let's say you're this being, you're stuck, like you're a corporeal being, right? You have a physical body, but you can't die in any way. You're just incapable of dying. Can't be drowned. Can't have oxygen issues. Thrown into a vacuum. Nothing happens to you. Whatever. So let's say the sun's gone nova and taken out our solar system. Our solar system doesn't exist anymore. And so you're just this person floating through space, you know? And I guess probably in the vastness of it, it would seem like you're not moving at all, really. And so it's like, you're just there for trillions upon trillions of years in nothingness. I mean, I guess maybe at some point in time, maybe you would get caught in the gravitational pull of some other kind of planet and you would experience what life is like there for a while, and the same thing would happen, and you just would travel around the universe from time to time going through that. You know, and then it's like, what would happen if you got caught into a black hole? Would you survive that? And then, you know, I think also, from what I understand of black holes, I'm not a physicist in any means, but the closer you get to actually entering a black hole, the slower time goes. So then what happens with that? You know, would you just essentially be stuck there forever? But then again, black holes eventually themselves supposedly end. So I guess you could potentially be stuck there in a black hole until that black hole disappears for an inevitable infinite amount of time. And then once that goes away, you would then again be like just stuck floating there and just like, yeah, I mean, from the one hand perspective, you know, the idea of like being around that long and literally seeing as much of the universe, I guess, as you possibly could, and seeing the different stages of the universe and what it goes through, and etc., and potentially seeing, I guess, life on other planets, if you can get to other planets, and if there's life on those planets, and what all that is, or if, you know, you happen to see some other kind of intelligent life, you know, in spaceships along the way, etc. But like, you have that aspect of it on the one hand, of like literally being around to see how things change through the universe on that kind of, you know, infant, you know, in scale of infinity. But then at the same point, then when you literally, if you live to the point where the universe itself is at its death and there's absolute nothing, and you're just there in a void, like, That's just your existence. You're the lone thing left in a void of absolute nothingness. There's nothing for you. You can't do anything. It's just you're there. Like, I feel like that would be kind of like the definition of hell, right? Like, there's just absolute nothing. There's not even like temperature. There's no cold. There's no hot. There's no light. There's just emptiness, pure emptiness. And you're just there. And then I guess, like, maybe at some point, you could then be a witness to another Big Bang and creation of the universe. And then what happens if you survive that, right? Like, if you could survive that, you would probably be like going through all kinds of issues with, like, the pain of the explosion of that magnitude. Because, like, you're talking about an explosion that's like creating and changing the very foundation of what is reality and physics and things like that. It's even something that's difficult to comprehend on what it actually would be. But then how hot it would be, and all the radiation and things, and how condensed the universe would be at that time, and then it expanding out. Like, I don't know. My brain just going into a bunch of different ways of what would happen in that kind of scenario. So, I mean, like, yeah, you witness the death of a universe and then potentially maybe the beginning of another one. If that's how Big Bangs happen, you know, who knows, man? And then you would see like a whole new universe, you know, I don't know. 682 would probably keep going just out of spite. I mean, yeah. Like that one episode Futurama where they have to keep going around the time loop again and back to their own time. Right? Like, yeah, I don't know. It's interesting to think of and speculate, but at the same time, it's like you would just go insane. Like, literally, just like you're just like stuck in this infinite void of nothingness. You know, yeah, I don't know. Like, imagine being a creature that just wants existence to end, but it can't. You know what I mean? Like, because that, I feel like at some point, that's all you would want. At some point, you would just be like, please, just let me die. Just let me end. I don't know.
The following data release has been authorized by the following council members and administration staff.
Oh, excuse me. Anyway, if a being wanted nothing, I'm assuming he's probably going to read this, but I'll read it anyway, just in case. If a being that wanted nothing but the end of everything, a literal end of creation and existence, was suddenly confronted with the end of everything, then what would they become? Seeing as they're part of that everything, they would end too, so their desire would be their undoing. However, what if that being lives past the end of everything? With everything gone, what would they want? Would it exist for what would exist for once its desires and purposes have been fulfilled? With nothing left, surely they could not want for anything, and anything they did want for would be unobtainable because of the state of nothing. If an immortal wanted death, then by definition it would be unobtainable. Therefore, their want for the end of everything has resulted in them realizing that really they were looking for an end to themselves. The result of watching some Alan Wants videos and thinking about SB682, I could be wrong, but it was an intriguing train of thought, so I thought I would keep it in. I mean, it is. Like I said, I kind of went through my thought process of that already, but it's like, yeah, it's like, if you're literally a creature that cannot die, it's impossible, literally impossible for you to die. What do you do when there's absolutely nothing left and you're just stuck there in this void? Again, the only other thing could potentially be is the start of a new universe. And if you survive that, then, you know, I guess that's just it. You know, you come to the realization of like, I am beyond even the creation of and death of universes. I will witness the death and rebirth of universes throughout the entirety of anything. And maybe he'll even like break through barriers to go to like the multiverses and stuff like that. You know, who knows? I think it's an interesting concept. This 2's hatred of all life is a result of his hatred for itself. Potentially, yeah. I mean, yeah, and I mean, yeah, it does. That does kind of bring up the question of, yeah, if you know, if you want to undo everything, you are part of everything. But if you can't undo yourself, then what really is your existence? And what did that hatred bring you? You know, lots of kind of, you know, existential and philosophical thinking.
Humans were more powerful than he'd been willing to give them credit for. They shot him, burned him, electrocuted him, and finally threw him in a box. If humans could handle fighting each other, they could certainly handle fighting him. They solved world hunger, brought about world peace, cured every disease, filled every need. But they grew bored with their crystalline cities they built for themselves. The end of all things crept.
So this is him seeing what happens to humanity, and eventually humanity gets to this point. Humanity gets to this point of solving world hunger and all these other issues, and even potentially fighting themselves.
Fighting him. They solved world hunger, brought about world peace, cured every disease, filled every need. But they grew bored with their crystalline cities they built for themselves. The end of all things crept quietly along after them, unnoticed. As soon as they stopped fighting, mankind was no more. He still hated them, of course, but the ease at which they went almost astonished him. Suddenly no one cared enough. Suddenly almost no children were born.
Yep.
A few metal tubes through...
Nurgle was right all along.
Suddenly almost no children were born. A few metal tubes threw themselves violently off the planet, and then, quite suddenly, humanity died altogether. He escaped not long after. After the end, though, the damage they'd done to the world crashed into reality, and the world died too. Plants withered away, then anything that ate plants, and then everything else. In a few thousand years, the carrion eaters died off, and he was truly alone. At first, it was a welcome change. He'd learned the hard way that eternity was only really worth it when things changed. And without any other life around, nothing really changed on a day-to-day scale. He'd wake up, look out over the dead earth, oceans, or at a nearly unchanging sky, and then go back to sleep.
Like, what else are you gonna do?
For endless eons he waited. He charted the stars by drawing in the dead earth and feel a pang of joy whenever one of them died. But they were always being replaced. Over and over he'd see one die and another be born. But humans had done the same thing for a long time as well. The sun had gotten larger and larger in the sky over time, then it ballooned to fill the entire daytime sky. The oceans turned to deserts and the deserts turned to molten glass. The whole surface of the earth glowed a deep orange. He suffered through the worst of it for a few million years, perching on the few rocks sturdy enough to stand up to the heat. He screamed when he could, but no one was around to hear him. Then the sun shrank.
I mean, yeah, can you imagine that? Like, the earth is so hot that everything just starts to melt and turns into just molten everything. And so it's like, anywhere you go, anything you do is just going to be this hot molten surface, and that could be that way for millions of years before the sun even explodes. So then, like, yeah, you're going through that existence, having to deal with all that.
Into a tiny white point in the sky, larger than the brightest stars, but only just. The dead earth slowly cooled, though there was no atmosphere left to breathe. He was alone with his own thoughts, and again, he began to chart the stars. At first, it continued on as before. The charts began to cover more and more of the earth. With nothing but time, he drew his constellations and calculations and came to a conclusion. The stars were dying too. Once they'd been replaced as quickly as they died, but now, maybe 2 died before another was born. Later still, 3. Then 4. The number kept climbing until there was only a few dozen stars left in the sky. The only record that the sky had once been filled with light was etched on continent-spanning star charts across the surface of the dead Earth.
I feel like wouldn't our sun go nova and destroy our solar system before this would start happening, right? You know, maybe I'm wrong. But I feel like you wouldn't have an Earth to sit here and view this from at this point if the stars are going out like that. But maybe I'm incorrect.
He realized, of course, that his fate was inevitable. Even after all
Gotcha.
the stars had gone, he would still be here. He would be the only thing left in an infinite darkness that would continue for eternity. He rested his head on the rock and gazed at a star, wondering for how much longer it would burn before fizzling out. Then one day, a trillion years after the last star had blinked out, 682 squinted at the dark night sky. A new star had formed. This one was brighter than anything he'd ever seen before. It moved strangely and quickly. Eventually it darkened and disappeared. A few years on, another star joined it and darkened again. And then another. For millennia, they grew a colony above him. Larger and larger still until it hung over him, like a tantalizing treat, just out of reach. Then they began to land on his world. He felt the rage return. His world. His home. But they deliberately avoided his drawings, chose the few blank spaces between the constellations and calculations to dig out the Earth.
So I wonder if this is supposed to be like humans returning, potentially, from what was left out there. Or if this, I guess, could potentially be another alien species. Or I guess, you know, maybe humanity had evolved at another planet or something, came back here. But obviously, as some kind of species came back to Earth and they see his constellation drawings and are avoiding them. His rage, it's interesting that he, for however many trillions of years it's been, where he's there by himself, as soon as something returns, the rage returns and he just wants to kill again. You know, I find that kind of fascinating. That even after all this time, he's unable to escape that kind of programming that's been, you know, put into him. You would think he would actually be like grateful. It's like, oh my God, there's something here, something else, potentially someone to talk to, someone to do something with.
Earth. Then they placed boxes between the constellations and calculations to dig out the Earth. Then they placed boxes gingerly into the ground, covered them, and drew new markings. In a few months they returned, this time with another box. He approached their landing party this time, staying as hidden as he could. He looked, and they were humans. He listened to the ground for the vibrations of their speech, but the language was nothing he'd ever heard before. Over and over, year after year they came, and year after year he would go and listen. Eventually, he understood their language. Today he'd woken up to another shooting star again coming to his home. He made his way to the landing site and waited. The men and women followed the same pattern as always. He suspected they knew he was there.
Wonder if they were trying to like communicate with him in some way or something.
But they'd made no moves against him. Maybe one day he'd kill them, destroy their ship, or take it to the stars and end them once and for all. But for all his petty fantasy, he knew that he would be alone soon enough. Time would destroy whatever he didn't, and in the end, he'd just be bored sooner. So he let them have their ceremony. The box was laid into a freshly dug hole, and a man in a slightly shinier suit stood and spoke to half a dozen other figures.
Malnos the Rash, the spawn of 2 Greldniks, would have had more grace and kindness than you. You hurt everyone with your words or hands or tools. It did not matter to you. And for this, we are sorry. Though we deserved better from you, so too did you deserve better from us. Instead, you died hungry and alone in the between spaces. You scarcely had a bed and no quarters to call your own. I commit now your soul to the stars, the home of your ancestors. I commit now your body to the earth, the home of their ancestors.
Interesting.
I hope you find the peace you deserved in life, somehow.
It's interesting that through all this and the death of all stars, humans are somehow still alive out there. You know, I guess obviously we'll have solved a lot of issues, technologically speaking. You know, if we're able to still survive with literally no stars out there.
May the Starkeeper bless your passing. May the Starkeeper bless your ancestors.
Starkeeper, huh? Interesting.
And may the Starkeeper bless us all.
I wonder if the Starkeeper is supposed to be an SCP or something like that. Maybe. I don't know. If that's just some kind of religious thing or something like that. I mean, like, who knows where technology and religion are going to go like that far into the future, you know what I mean? Maybe there's some point where like science and religion kind of meld together in some kind of new way of thinking or being at that point. Or in a universe like the SCP, maybe again, some kind of SCP is able to, you know, create stars in some other distant part of the universe. Because I mean, like, with how vast the universe is too, there comes a point where like you just can't see light. Like maybe just at this part of the universe, you know, is dying, and there's another part of the universe that is still stuff is being born, because we have no idea how really large the universe is. So who knows? And maybe they've just gone to that and they come back here to, I guess, rest their dead, you know? I don't know.
The humans covered the hole with dirt slowly, and then shuffled into their ship. SCP-682, the Starkeeper, and the last witness to a dying universe, watched them disappear into the black eternity. He walked over to the grave, pawed at the freshly dug ground, spun in place atop it, and took a nap.
Or maybe the Starkeeper is the idea of what he's supposed to be, since he was keeping track of all the constellations over the entire planet. Interesting.
And that is how SCP-682 will spend the rest of his existence. Cold, alone, and unable to escape the eternal darkness that will befall the universe eventually. It's all well and good being immortal until even the universe dies of old age. So yeah, he may win every fight now, but eventually creation will have the last laugh. I hope you enjoyed this video. Be sure to like and subscribe if you did. Next time will be SCP-1861. Be sure to follow all the social media outlets for video updates. Check out the SCP Illustrated shop for posters and prints. Links are in the description.
Interesting video and idea. You know, it makes me wonder, you know, the story of the Red Universe, where that guy kind of decayed into like literal like nothingness slowly. What would happen if you put 682 in there? Would he be able to resist that? You know what I mean? Yeah, that's what I was getting at the end, that 682 was the Starkeeper. They were calling him the Starkeeper because he mapped out all the constellations and everything throughout the planet. And so, yeah, like, I guess maybe they had formed a religion around him with this idea of, you know, he was the Starkeeper. So, and I guess, yeah, they probably knew he was there and they just left him alone, you know? Interesting. Even seemed to have origin around the star charts, maybe. Yeah. I think they probably knew he was there because they kept, like, new stuff kept showing up. But who knows? Maybe not. I don't know. Would have been interesting to see if he had actually interacted with them, what would have happened, you know? But I mean, it is kind of sad, you know, when you think about it, that like literally his existence just turns into him being alone forever, you know? But I think at some point in time, from what I understand, when the universe is supposed to die, from what we know anyway of physics, like it becomes a point where like even atoms aren't even like able to like keep structure, you know what I mean? Like the electrons and protons of atoms aren't able to keep together And so like even atoms start breaking apart. So it's like, does 682, could he even survive that? You know what I mean? And if he can survive that, then again, it's like, does he get to a point where he's able to witness potentially, if it happens, another Big Bang and the creation of another universe? And then if that happens, is he able to survive that? So technically he was literally Starkey with true since at one point was the only thing that, yeah. Yep. So interesting and sad story, but you know, it is kind of like he said at the beginning, he was listening to some Alan Watts stuff, and this kind of gave him the idea of what would happen to 682 in this scenario. And it is kind of an interesting, thought-provoking idea. If you were a being that literally cannot die, what would existence be like throughout the trillions upon trillions and trillions of years of witnessing the universe until it dies? And then again, if you can even live beyond that, what is existence like at that point? You know, if you live beyond the death of the actual universe, the heat death of the actual universe, where atoms and molecules can no longer form, and if you're still alive, what is that like? You're literally at a point of just absolute nothingness, a literal void of nothing, and it's just you. And who knows, like I said, potentially he could witness the birth of a new universe and a new Big Bang, and who knows. From, like I said, from one aspect, it would be interesting just to be able to witness all of that. Be able to say you witnessed the destruction of trillions of stars and planets and solar systems, you know, and let's say Earth had gone supernova and he was sent out into space, traveling through space, potentially getting picked up by the gravity of other suns or bodies. You know, I mean, like, and yeah, what would happen? What would happen in any number of those scenarios, right? Like, if our sun goes nova, destroys our planet and our solar system, and he's ejected out into space, you know, what happens if he gets caught in the gravity of the sun? Now he's just sitting there, you know, burning up in the sun for potentially billions of years before that sun decays and turns into nothing, and goes either nova or becomes a white dwarf or some other kind of dwarf star. Maybe he ends up on another planet if he's lucky. Who knows what that planet could be like? You know, if it could be a gas giant and you're stuck there until, you know, that solar system explodes. Maybe you get lucky, you end up on another Goldilocks planet where life could form. Maybe you end up in a white hole. White hole. I mean, there are white holes actually. Maybe you end up in a black hole. You know. Maybe, you know, you get stuck in a quasar. You know, who knows? Who knows? And then it's like, again, what existence is that? And on that scale. But you know, like I said, from some point of view, it would be interesting to say, you know, you were witness to all of that. But at the same time, like, what's the point? You know what I mean? Like, people say all the time that, like, they would want to live forever, you know, to truly be immortal and to live forever, you know, but like in a healthy way where you're like at your healthiest, you're at your peak, you're at your prime, you know. But at some point, it's got to be like, okay, yeah, what happens at the end of the Earth? And if you can't get off Earth, you know, if humanity has gotten to a point where like we never get off Earth, we destroy ourselves, you're the sole person left on the planet or something like that, like, what do? You know what I mean? I don't know. It's just, it's an interesting thing to think of. But anyway, that's gonna do it for this video, guys. Appreciate you. Very interesting, thought-provoking video, and also kind of a sad one about, you know, what happens to 682 in this theoretical scenario. So I hope you guys enjoyed it. Links will be down below in the description to this original video of Mr. Illustrated's and to Mr. Illustrated's channel. Please do me a favor clicking those links. Go check out the stuff. If you liked his original video, give him a like. And if you like his content, go give him a sub. Man deserves it. But that's it for now on this video. Thank you guys very much. We're doing this reaction live from our YouTube members. If you'd like to come and enjoy the discussions, we would love to have you guys in here. Come hang out with us. Have a good time. And yeah, just sit down and enjoy our discussions that we have as I'm going through these videos. You can also get a lot of my videos a week early, up to a week early. You can get your name added to the end of the videos, amongst other things. So check out the benefits if you would like to. There's a join button down below. See if any of them have any kind of interest to you. Regardless of that, I just appreciate you guys taking time out of your busy day to hang out and watch the video. Hope you enjoyed it. If you did, consider leaving a like and a sub, as it helps me and it helps the channel grow. And yeah, we'll see you on the next one, guys. Thank you very much. Have a good one.